Hey everybody, welcome to class. We are on class 9 of our 14 classes. And I love that in the chat, we already have some people. It's almost like our in-person class where people are kind of catching up. How was your day? How did your appointments go? Hello to everybody in the chat. Hello to Kiana and Ashley and Natalie and Catherine and Tiffany. Great. Tiffany asked, good, able to ask more specific questions about induction. That's great. After class, good. I hope it got you thinking. Hope it got everybody thinking. Welcome to you guys that are watching in the replay. I hear from so many replay people, which I love. I've been working or reading people that comment that they're trying to catch up on the videos so that they can join live. So if that's the case for you, welcome to the live class. If it's not, if you're still watching a replay, that's great too. Let me know in the comments, #childbirth replay, and just share any of your takeaways in the comments, because that's a great way to learn. Great. Hello to Roberta. Hello to everybody. Welcome. If you have not, oh, yay. Oh, Larika. Hello. You're at your first live class. I'm going to put your comment up on our board so you can see it for the first time. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, guys. Well, if some of you spent last night or today thinking over kind of all of the information that I dumped out and we discussed yesterday about induction, then you're not the only one. I actually spent most of the day kind of trying to rework a little bit what I'm going to present today, really thinking about this request that a few of you guys made yesterday. I want to share a little bit about that too. Induction is one of those topics that's like, there's so much to know about it in a just in case kind of a way. And gosh, I feel like I could teach like 4 classes just on induction. So today we are going to talk about the reason for induction. So why induction? And we're going to go through that. I have some like extra resources to share about that. And we're going to discuss hydrotherapy as well. Now, if you haven't had a chance to look at the homework playlist that I set up, totally fine. It's, just extra information if you're interested. And it always follows the same easy URL, which is supporting her forward class, homework, and then the day of the class. So today's is supportingher.com/homework9. And I think there were maybe 3 videos in tonight's homework. That's the only word for it. Extra resource playlist that you might have. So hello to Killian. Hello to Dabo Doodles. Welcome back, everybody. I love seeing familiar faces in the chat. It truthfully feels like I'm here with a class. At the end, and hello, Tara. Hello, Tara. At the end of class yesterday, I felt like I was like giving a lot of information and processing information. You guys probably were too. And as soon as I finished to go over to, I'm standing in the same spot, but go over to the after the class video, I grabbed my water and I was thinking, I don't think I took a sip the entire class. So I hope you guys are still drinking your water, even if I am not drinking it, but I'll take a sip to start. Today's birth affirmation is, I trust birth. I trust birth. Now, some of these are going to resonate with you and you're going to feel them and think that that is a good birth affirmation. And some of them might not, and that's okay. Again, in this class, we're all about learning our options and finding out enough information so that you guys, I want you to have enough information so that you feel good about the choices that you go, the choices that and paths that you take in labor, and feel in control of your decision making and your options. Yeah, really, really important. Oh, thank you, Kiana. Orange is my favorite color. You guys might have guessed. I have a lot of orange going on. Oh, good. Miss Romero said, got your preparing for birth book. Yay, preparing for birth. So that's part of the kit. And today we are doing page 23. It's more about induction. O'Neill, were you sipping bourbon? It counts. I mean, it's you're sipping something, right? Taboo Doodles. Emergency ice cream run. I love that. That's so good. Great. Okay, so before we get into this kind of heavy and a lot of information heavy content of why induction, I want to answer the question yesterday. There was some discussion. I know Rachel E asked, and a couple of you guys also said that sounded like a good class. And you guys all got me really thinking about this idea as a class and trying to figure out how I would structure that, what would be the best. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, the idea was, question was like, how do we know how to advocate enough for ourselves working with our care provider, if our care provider is giving suggestions that maybe we're not sure about, and maybe they don't go along with what we were hoping for. How do we make informed consent? How do we make decisions? How do we have those difficult conversations? Kind of all of those questions, which I think are really important. I came to the conclusion that YouTube is probably not the best place, the best format for it. I feel like a workshop would be better format where I'm actually seeing people. We're having kind of a two-way conversation on this topic, because I think also practicing difficult conversations is important. So, hey, Rachel, I'm just talking about your question from last night. Welcome. So I gave this a lot of thought, like, how would this actually be beneficial? Because I don't want to put something on that's just kind of like, meh. I don't want it to be, I'm always trying to do something that is worth time. So I am going to offer a workshop that is going to be Zoom based. So it's not going to be on YouTube. It's going to be Zoom based. And it'll be a 2-hour workshop on this topic. And there are 2 dates for it. So I want to just share that with you guys. So I put together this quick course, or not quick course, but quick kind of sales page so you can get signed up for it. And the 2 dates, they're at the same time. No, they're earlier than this class, 7 p.m. because it's 2 hours. So 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 16th. So after our class ends, and Monday, March 29th at the same time. So this class will be over. It's an optional workshop for anyone that really needs and would like to have more of a private group workshop type on this topic. I am charging a fee for it. So yeah, I put a $49 fee on it, though I'm very sensitive to what's going on in society right now, which is one reason that brought me to YouTube, because I love being able to provide these free classes. So if at any time you're interested in this workshop and you're like, I can't afford this, Alice, can you work with me? You send me an email and we talk about it. So I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out how could I make this work, because I think it has a lot of merit, but I think I need to see your faces and we need to talk back and forth over it. Okay, happy to answer any questions about it later too. We can talk about it. And then the other option I just want to put out there, because I do have a discount on it, is that that was weird. I do offer a private birth consultation, and in the month of March, I have a discount on it. So it's usually $139. Right now it's $99. Yes, the coupon is part of it. And it's 2 30-minute one-on-one sessions. So let me show you. Okay, so that's the link for the workshop. It's also below the video for anybody who's interested. And that's the link for the private. And it's also below the video for anybody who's interested. I would say privates are good for someone who really wants to have that consultation from a doula to work through like their specific plans. And the workshop would be, you know, a small group format, but where I can see your faces and we can talk over. Okay, so I wanted to share that, but it really got me thinking. And I hope that it's something that might work out or meet the needs of what you guys are looking for. But send me an email if you have questions, and say hello if you haven't said hello yet. You guys are sharing mocktail recipes in the chat. I love it. Awesome. Okay, guys, we are here to talk about the reason for induction. I want to also point out just now as we're starting that I put, I think three links below the description. Yes, O'Neill's asking for, let me put that up. There are 3 links below the description that give a little bit more information about induction. And it's hard, I think, to sometimes get to the right research or the right information that you're looking for. So if at any time you're like, hey, Alice, can you point me in the right direction of low fluid or something like that? And I can go, bloop, look at this resource. So I didn't put all the resources. I just put 3 really good resources down there for more information. So check that out. Okay, yes, this is 7 p.m. Eastern time. Eastern time, 7 p.m. is the workshop. So for my time, Pacific time, it would be 4 o'clock. I still have a problem with conversion sometimes. Okay, and before we go, I'll mention the links again too. So let me get my, I want to start really basic with these reasons, and then we're going to go specific, okay? So induction, part 2. Thanks for being here. The most basic reason to do a medical induction of labor is really if this answer to this question is a yes. So if this is a yes, then like a definite yes, like yes, health of parent, health of baby, we need a baby to come out. And the perfect example, and we're going to talk about specifics, but the perfect example of this would be preeclampsia. So preeclampsia is a problem with blood pressure. It is where the blood pressure gets very high, and it's actually dangerous for both baby and parent. And the only way to solve the preeclampsia problem is for baby to be born. So like this question answers yes so easily. The harder part is when the answer to the question isn't so clear, but this, if you are working with a care provider that says your baby will be healthier if the baby is born in the next day or with an induction, not waiting, or you will be healthier. So this is also the catch-all for like other medical conditions that I can't cover like every little one. An example of this might be epilepsy. And there isn't a lot of research around epilepsy in pregnancy, but I know that I have worked with clients that have epilepsy, have an epileptic condition, and their provider told them that they had to be induced. Now, the research on that might have changed, but that's just an example of how a particular health condition might have its own needs for induction. Okay, so very basic question, but a question that cannot be discounted is, especially if the first question wasn't clear, if it's like, maybe, we don't know, then this next question is something that actually matters. What are my preferences for my birth experience? Okay, you could also change that to what are our preferences for our birth experience? That birth preferences and the birth experience does matter. And I think I have a quote. Your choice is important. Your choice is important. Here's my quote that I wanted to make sure I shared. So this is a body, the American College of OBGYNs. That's what ACOG is. So they give a lot of big decisions on and guidance to their members. So they're OB members. There's also a group called American College of Nurse Midwives. So that would be over the nurse midwives. So they have said that a collaborative discussion with shared decision-making should take place with the pregnant woman. That is a quote from them. So they have even said outright that the discussion should be a shared decision-making experience. Now, not to be the bearer of bad news, but it sometimes doesn't work this way. It sometimes is a bit one-sided on the provider's side of strongly recommending an induction, and the family feels a little bit like, I wasn't given an option. There was no shared decision-making. So when we think about that class, the workshop I was talking about, I think one thing that we're really going to do, which is better when we can talk, unlike YouTube, is have some examples. So if we were in real class, I would have us go through role playing, if the provider says this, how do you get your questions answered? If this, if this is suggested, what would be your next go-to question and that kind of thing. So this is what the American College of OBGYNs suggests, but it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of times you have to really be an advocate for trying to get your questions answered and have your preferences, know that your preferences matter, because your preferences do matter. They're saying right here that it should be shared. So that's kind of some overarching themes as we go into this discussion. Okay, let's talk about medically indicated. So medically indicated induction of labor generally has I'll go through each of these reasons, but most of the time it can't wait. Okay. It's like, you need to come in, you need to, your blood pressure is going up. We need you to come in tonight, or we need you to go pack a bag and come into the hospital. With preeclampsia, it's generally like emergent, not an emergency, but like timely. We really need this to happen. So that is preeclampsia. Absolutely that. And preeclampsia has a few indicators. So it's high blood pressure. And then if you have increased protein in your urine, if you have, they'll check your liver enzymes, elevated liver enzymes. Okay. So this medically indicated reasons for labor generally are not something that is like, well, we could do it on a Wednesday, we could do it on Thursday. It's generally like, we need to probably do it soon. Okay. The second one is premature rupture of membranes. So that's your water breaks and you don't have any contractions. Generally within a certain time frame, 24 hours, 12 hours, depending upon your provider, you will need to be induced. And some people don't really consider that an induction because your water already broke, but technically it is. So hold on. I have this like window that is going to hit me with sun in just a second. Okay. And I see your questions coming in. I could just see that sun coming right in my video. And then, okay, let me check your questions real quick. Roberta says, that was not my experience. Yeah, that there wasn't that shared decision-making. Yeah. Tiffany says, I felt like I was told by the specialist that I had to have a scheduled induction and there was no discussion. Yeah, it does happen. But it really needs to be a shared decision. It should be. Catherine says, I've been pretty surprised how little medical information my providers have offered. It makes it hard to know what my preferences are when I have so little information to work with from them. Oh my gosh, Catherine, I'm going to I need to screenshot this to save it, because this is why everyone needs a childbirth class. You know, providers need to encourage people to go to a childbirth class. I mean, it's my preference that they would pay for it, or that insurance would pay for it too, because they don't provide information. It's so true. Yeah. Okay. So many questions. Oh, thank you, Anissa. I put a video out today about advice to my formerly pregnant self. If you haven't seen that and you're interested, check it out. 19 years ago. Okay, Kiana, we are going to talk about this one. Okay, so hang in there. We are talking about this one. Yes. So, okay. So we talked about preeclampsia, premature rupture of membranes. This next one is fairly rare. Intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy, ICP. So that's basically where the bile duct of the liver, the gallbladder and the liver are not acting the way they should, and it can be serious for effects to the baby. And so generally that is like within hours, days that they say we need to get it started on an induction. It wouldn't be like, let's wait a week. Yeah. Okay, suspected big baby. So Kiana, here we are. Suspected big baby is only indicated if a ultrasound indicates the baby is greater than 11 pounds. And I think the actual number is 11 and a half. So that is like, you know, a very large baby. It's just over 11 and a half pounds. Under 11 and a half pounds, it's actually not medically indicated to be induced for suspected big baby. And there's a lot of research around that. So I can actually point you in, if you want more information, I can point you into that, Kiana. Yes. The last three are more unclear. That we're seeing some providers say that, and some research pointing to gestational diabetes that is not diet and exercise controlled. Twins, sometimes providers will induce at 38 weeks. And a BMI greater than 30 is kind of like, maybe. Yes. So let's see. Oh, Diana's question. What about smaller babies under 10th percentile? Would that be a cause for induction? So smaller babies, if they aren't continuing to grow, so if their measurements aren't changing and they're under percentile, they might be you might be diagnosed with intrauterine growth restriction, IUGR. And in that case, yes, I knew that I missed one on here. IUGR isn't like an emergency one, but it can sometimes lead to induction of labor. But just being under 10th percentile, if the baby's under 10th percentile and they're still growing, not an issue. I mean, when you think about it, some babies have to be in that percentile, right? Just like some people are. It's interesting. I've worked with a lot of like parents that both are fairly petite, and then their doctors are concerned about their smaller size baby. It doesn't seem to make sense to me sometimes. Okay, so medically indicated. This next set, and I hate when my little arrows, is elective induction. So here is the funky part. I'm not kidding you guys. I spend all day thinking about induction and trying to figure out how best to present it. It is termed elective induction, but it doesn't always feel elective. There is often a push for these reasons that, not just these, but other ones, these are some common ones, that feels not elective to the person that's being induced. Like, did I have a choice? I don't remember. But these are actually considered elective. The first one is inducing at 39 weeks. So you might have heard about this. There was a big research study, published results in 2018, August, called the ARRIVE trial. And it's put the birth world a little bit into a spin of like, what's going to happen? How are things going to change? And there are some good links below to the ARRIVE trial. There's actually a really good video from a doula childbirth educator who does like a 23-minute on the ARRIVE trial. I want to share with you, there's a lot of information that I could share about induction. This trial basically put people that are at low risk with their first baby into 2 camps, wait for labor to start on its own, induce at 39 weeks, and tried to figure out, are the outcomes the same? Are the outcomes better, worse, whatever? And the health of baby and parent were the same for both. The difference was that the induced at 39 weeks decreased the cesarean rate, I think by 3%, could have been 3.5, from the weight on its own. So there was a reduction. That's not a big reduction to me, 3.5%. And there are other things that we can do that aren't done, which is, this is what's hard for me as a doula and a childbirth educator. Like, research is really clear that doulas decrease the incidence of cesarean. I can't remember, I did a video on it. It's in the 20s. So why is that not big news? Why isn't everybody given a doula and say like, hey, you need a doula because it decreases the rate of cesarean by 25%. But this study came out and said it decreased by 3%. And so now a lot of doctors are just doing 39-week inductions. But it's elective. So you have to actually agree. Okay, participants in the study, I don't know, Jonathan, but it was quite an extensive study. It was not like, everybody who looked at this research was very pleased at the amount of people that were included in the study and the areas of the US that were included. So I think it was pretty significant. But I don't know the exact answer, but that's a great question. So there's this 39-week ARRIVE trial induction. Some providers are just like, now that's what they do, 39 weeks, they suggest it. And then these are just, the next two are more like a personal preference. I've seen people choose that they are choosing an elective induction because they want their provider to be there. Like, say they have 5 doctors in their practice and they want their doctor. And this was very common where I worked in Atlanta, where the doctor would say, hey, you're going to be 40 weeks on Wednesday, but I'm on call Monday. So let's have you come in on Monday. That way I can be there for you. And that's all people would get. They wouldn't get any other information like, oh yeah, and it's going to be a longer labor and you're going to have, Pitocin and it could lead to side effects. Blah, blah. It was just like, hey, and I'll be there. So it was kind of a not great shared decision-making situation. Sometimes people, for whatever reason, want to have their baby on a specific date. I have worked with families that have someone in the military that's deployed that can come back and has been induced, elective induction. I have seen that. And then going past your due date is actually the one that we hear a lot, going past 40 weeks. And it's really between 39 and 42, which is an elective induction. And I want to give a really good example to you guys about the past due date elective induction situation, because I've seen it now. I've seen it in Atlanta, and now I've seen it in Seattle, and I've talked to other doulas around that have all seen this, which it's a little, it'll be clear. So family goes into their practice and maybe they're at their 40-week appointment, and their doctor says, you're at your due date. We need you to come in to be induced. And they said, yeah, I really don't want to be induced. Can I just have a few more days? Can I come in for a non-stress test? Can I come in for extra monitoring? Maybe in 3 days or after the weekend. And they get a lot of pressure. Like, no, you're past your due date. There's increased risk. Your placenta might not keep functioning. We really need you to come in. So there's a lot of kind of like negotiation back and forth. The result is that they get a date on the calendar. Let's say it's when the doctor wanted, on a Friday, Friday, you need to come in at 8 p.m. Remember our Cervidil situation, Cytotec, and get induced. Great. So they're upset about it. Ugh, great, Friday. They change all of their plans. They have a lot of plans at the end, but tell everyone we're going in to be induced. Mentally, they got their mindset, okay, got an induction, we can do this, we're going in Friday. Friday comes and the hospital calls and says, we don't know if you can come in. It's really busy here. So we're just going to have to keep you like on a, check in with us tomorrow morning. So it was going to be Friday night. So then Saturday comes and they're like, oh, is today going to be the study or whatever? Or the day that we get induced, and the hospital's like, no, still slammed. We're slammed. We don't have any room. Maybe tonight. We're going to keep you posted. So then they wait. Sunday, still busy. We're not sure. Finally get a call to go in Monday, which was 3 days past when they thought they were going to come in, which was really the date that they were hoping to like delay it to. But meanwhile, they've been in this limbo. And the thing about it is, if they really needed to be induced, like it was the hospital would have found a spot for them, right? Because if you went into labor and you show up at your hospital, they're going to find a spot for you. They're not going to be like, oh, busy, go to another hospital. No, they find a place for you. So it's a little bit, that's the frustrating part that I've witnessed as a doula so many times. I'm not kidding. That scenario happens. And it's like, what is the real need for this induction if I can be postponed and bumped from it days and days, a couple of days? Like, do I really need it right now? What is really going on? Is this elective? Do I have a choice? Did anyone did that story make sense? Sometimes when I'm sharing this long story, I wonder if it's following. Thank you, Jonathan, for Googling the ARRIVE trial. You said, let's see, 6,000 participants. Yeah, so pretty good size. Yes, we can dive into that study. There's so much you can read about that study. I'd love for you guys to check it out. It's something to think about. But again, there are other things that we can do to decrease our risk of cesarean more significantly than just being induced at 39 weeks. Like being induced at 39 weeks, 3%, moving in labor has been researched. I don't know the numbers, decreases your risk of cesarean. Like we've got to think about the whole picture here. O'Neill. Oh my gosh. The story sounds like anytime you go to the doctor, waiting forever. So O'Neill, we have this saying in the doula world, hospital time. We call it hospital time. It's like 1 minute is 1 hour. So if they say, oh, we'll be in at noon, you're not going to see them before 1. I mean, it's like, if you remember this, you guys, when you check out from the hospital, like you've had your baby, you're ready to go home, start talking to them about checking out. I'm going to remind you of this in the morning, like the first shift, when the shift changes in the morning, you have to say like, we're ready to go. What paper do we need to have? Because we want to go, because hospital time is so slow. Okay. I hope that made sense. I hope that I didn't lose anybody here along the way. 2 big ones, and one we already talked about a little bit, but these have been studied pretty clearly, and they are not supported by evidence for reasons to induce. One is low amniotic fluid. So if you had a late ultrasound, say you had an ultrasound in your 39th week, 39th week, and they say, oh, your fluid looks low, we need to induce you. That is not supported by evidence. It is not. It's not better outcomes. The second one is a suspected big baby that is less than 11 pounds. So that's not supported by evidence. So if you had a provider that said, it looks like your baby's going to be 9 pounds, 10 pounds by the ultrasound, that's not evidence-based for induction. So Yeah, those are the things that I think can be tricky, is when we're in those gray areas, and it seems strange to have providers that don't follow recommended practice or practice evidence-based medicine, but obstetrics and it's one of the only fields that it takes a long time to change practice. A lot of times, sometimes there's a study that'll come out that'll make a big hit, kind of like that ARRIVE trial, and then all of a sudden we see practice change. But then on the other side, when things go different ways, we don't see the practice change very fast. So, good question, Kayla. Would the big baby really depend on, would the suspected big baby really depend on the size of the birthing person? Not really. No, actually, I mean, yes, conceptually we think that, but it really has to do with our pelvis size. So it's hard to tell. Like, someone can be a larger person but have a smaller pelvis. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to like the risks. The late ultrasounds can be off plus or minus as much as a pound in either way. I think I mentioned this before. Did I mention this before? Tell me if it's familiar. So if they say, hey, you're having an 8-pound baby, it could be a 9-pound baby or it could be a 7-pound baby. At the end, it's not that accurate. And I will tell you, I have seen, I remember the day that my first client had a scheduled cesarean because they were worried about a big baby. And she actually wasn't even induced. They went straight to a cesarean because of the big baby. And her baby was like 8'1", which is really not a big baby. It's really not. And she had a really hard time processing it. It was very difficult because she felt like she wasn't given all the information to make that decision appropriately for her. Okay, so here we are. Other things that I wanted to share with you. You should feel at the decision-making point, you should feel good about it. So it's always good to ask your provider, can you provide more information on this reason? Can you let me know, like, here's a question that I would, if you are still in the time of your pregnancy, and I have no idea how far along a lot of you guys are, but if you still have time that you can switch providers, if you're still trying to figure out if you're in a good match with your provider, asking about induction at your appointment is a great insight into how they practice. So if you ask questions like, can you tell me about how often you suggest induction? Can you tell me about the reasons that you usually would suggest induction? Do you see that the hospital has patients with induction? That's the thing that yesterday, do you guys remember I got a little bit opinionated about the idea of Pitocin and the catheter at the same time? Because to me, it's like rushing an induction. And for best results, which is something that this ARRIVE trial, the 39-week trial, people that have looked into that have said that the benefit of being in the trial is they allowed the induction people a lot of time. Like, there wasn't it's been 24 hours. Let's go ahead and do a C-section. This induction has failed. Because they were part of this trial, they were given like every single chance to have a vaginal birth with their induction. And by every single chance, that means some days like a 3-day induction, like 2 days of 2 doses of Cervidil, and then 2 days of being on Pitocin, or being on Pitocin and then going, turning it off and then turning it back on, and 3 full days. And I've seen people induced for 3 full days, and it is a lot, but usually the slower induction methods, the hospitals that are open about being slow about their induction, are open about having a couple days, they are more likely to have inductions lead to vaginal birth. Let me know if you're following me on that one. Jump in the chat and let me know. And if you have water nearby, take a sip of water. Okay. Kayla says, what are the risks associated with going past the 40-week due date? When would it become medically necessary? So at any time, if you go past your 40-week due date, the risk might be that the placenta is not behaving, is not properly working, not nourishing the baby. And so that is a concern. And they might, like, the placenta might be aging. This is not common, but it can happen. So what they do often, if you go past, that they will have you come in for a non-stress test or a biophysical profile. And in that, they are either doing a non-stress test, which is where they monitor fetal heart rate. They basically put you on the same monitor, that same fetal heart rate and contraction monitor. And usually you have a little button that you are clicking when the baby moves. So they're doing kick counts, they're doing checking on baby's heart rate. And then they might also do an ultrasound to check fluid levels and that kind of thing. All of that being said, to check how the placenta is functioning, how the baby is doing. Now, the risk of stillbirth does go up slightly, start going up slightly at the 42-week mark. So a risk of stillbirth is very, very small. That increases by a very small amount until 42 weeks. At 42 weeks, we see more of a significant increase. So that's why 42 weeks is really like usually the very last that most providers will go to, even home birth midwives, though some home birth midwives might go a little bit longer, but 42 is usually at our end. And that's because of that more of an increase in incidence of stillbirth. Okay. Kiana said, doctor told me today that the only risk for myself would be that the baby would be too big to fit through the pelvis. Yeah, I mean, right. The baby, that's kind of we don't know, right? That's a gray. That's not, when we talk about that clear, like, is baby better or am I better off having the baby on the outside? We don't know. Now, I will say that this birth affirmation is something that feels comfortable to me, that I trust birth and the way that the body works. It doesn't always work well, though. So, yes, I trust it, though sometimes it doesn't work perfectly. So, we have to weigh our preferences and how we are feeling about things. So, let's see. Tiffany says, do you know the risks of gestational diabetes with insulin use? Why does this require induction? Tiffany, I don't know the exact stats on insulin-controlled gestational diabetes. I think it's pretty close to diet and exercise controlled. I think as long as it's controlled, and this is so provider dependent too. I would really, if you haven't had a conversation with your provider, talk to your provider about all of your options right now. But I'm sorry, I don't know the specifics on insulin-based induction. Oh, great question, Roberta. What are your thoughts on natural induction methods like certain teas, elixirs, etc.? Yes, let's talk about that. And then while I'm talking, if you guys have any other induction questions, throw them in the chat. So yeah, I'm kind of mixed about natural induction. I like to follow the research. So eating dates in the last 4 weeks of pregnancy, about 6 ounces of 6 ounces of dates a day. I just did a video recently about it. That can increase the likelihood that you go into spontaneous labor. So that has been researched. Drinking red raspberry leaf tea can cause your uterus to have stronger contractions and just tone your uterus. But other things like castor oil or other evening primrose oil, all of those have more risk with them. So they have risk of having contractions that are too strong for the baby. And so I don't usually suggest that unless you're being monitored. Like we have had a birth center that I know that I'm familiar with, that they would do a castor oil induction, but you would do it at the birth center so that they could keep track of you. How are your contractions? What is the baby doing? Same thing with nipple stimulation. Sometimes nipple stimulation can cause contractions to start, but it has the risk of causing contractions that are too strong for the baby or too long for the baby. And so doing that outside the hospital setting really isn't something that I would recommend. Anything that is an induction, I feel like you should talk it over with your provider. So, but things like eating the dates, Aline says she's been eating the dates since 36 weeks. That's awesome. I did this date video and I never really ate dates. So I ordered these dates to do the video. I am hooked on dates. They're so good. Anyway, just sharing. I think they're delicious now. Yes, Tiffany, I agree. I'm not sure why induction either. I think that I will look into that more for you, but I agree. I think that the literature likes to use diet and exercise controlled, and separate that out from insulin dependent. But I think if we took those and compared them, that they probably are the same, but I don't know exactly. Yep. This is a good question. Anissa, I don't know the answer to that. And I think it is also provider that I'm sure there's research on it. But I'm going to write that down because I will look into that. After a cesarean, how many cesareans is induction contraindicated? And I know that some providers are inducing after 2 cesareans. So I know it can be done, but I'm not sure about the research. Some of those one-offs, I just have to look them up. But that is a great question. Great question. Yep. Okay. Yay. Eat your dates, drink your water, relax, no stress. As stress-free as we can. Okay, guys, let's talk. I don't see any more. I hope yesterday was the heavy. I mean, we are 48 minutes in talking about the why induction. But I think that it is, let me see, hold on 1 second. There were a couple minutes from last night. I wanted to make sure that labor, yes, about getting an induction. When inductions are, okay, I'm like, I know I want to share this with you, but sometimes it takes me a while to go through, but we're going to get through it. Pitocin, remember we talked yesterday about the IV Pitocin. This is another kind of controversial, not really, but a little bit theory that I'm going to share with you. And that is, if you are getting induced and say you know you want an epidural or you're thinking an epidural is in your future, but you're kind of waiting to see how it goes. While you're laboring, if you get to a point that you're like, okay, it's getting really strong, I really would like the epidural. It's my doula advice to talk to your nurse about turning the Pitocin down until after your epidural and then turning the Pitocin back up. Doesn't always get met with the most supportive care providers. I've been there for the conversations where it's like, well, if we turn it down, you might lose some momentum. But again, this is a long process. So why are we rushing it? If I can have my next hour waiting for my induction with contractions that are 10 minutes apart and not so intense, and then once I am, have less pain, then you can jack it back up to a stronger, routine or pattern that you're looking for. I think that's worth it to my birth experience. I think that's worth it. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. But I'm a fan. Like, that's when I work with doula clients, I certainly tell them that option, help them advocate for themselves. Like, hey, I'm ready for an epidural. Can we make this next hour a little bit easier and then start it again? Let me know in the chat. Did that make sense? So I wanted to make sure that I let you guys know about that. And then, my whole spiel about keeping your batteries charged, right? Resting when you can. This also happens or also applies to induction. So when you're induced, like say that you had all night with Cervidil, you wake up the next morning, you have a shower, you have food, then they start the Pitocin. Please make sure you have a shower and food before they start Pitocin. I know I mentioned that yesterday. I'm just mentioning it again today. But after that, when they start the Pitocin, generally you have some time where there's either no contractions or nothing significant. During that time, I want you to be restful, doing things restful. If you can be sleeping or try to sleep, sleep. If you can be laying down, lay down. Until you are starting to feel things, that's when you need to get up and do your movements and work on your tools, take your tools out of your toolbox and all that. Until then, I still want you to rest. So it could be kind of weird. Like, I slept kind of all night. They woke me up at 6 a.m. to take out the Cervidil. They said I could eat and take a shower. I ate, I took a shower, I got the Pitocin, and now it's 8 a.m. and I'm back in bed trying to sleep. Yes, that's what you're doing. Remember, it just like, early labor, we still have to hang on to that battery, keeping our batteries charged as soon as possible. Don't get up, don't move around, don't start doing things until you really have to. Okay, good. I circled and underlined, get a shower and a big breakfast. I mean, it makes me crazy if people don't get that, because then they start a whole day of hiking up a mountain without any nourishment. No, metaphorically, hiking up a mountain. And induction is hard to predict. That's my last thought before we talk about hydrotherapy, is that I have talked to you guys about how long it is, how slow it is, how different it is, but sometimes it's not. So I worked with a client last year, and they had been told from class, they had been told from me that, have patience, going to be long, have patience, going to be long. And sometimes when the body is ready, like for whatever, maybe she would have gone into labor on her own the next day or something like that. And all of a sudden, that Pitocin just kicks in and boom, 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 we are rolling. And baby is born like in a shorter amount of time. That happens too. So it's hard to predict. Set your mind on the long, but be happy if you get the short. If you're induced. Again, we're talking all about this just in case. And I know some of us don't know if we're going to. Let's talk hydrotherapy, guys. Hydrotherapy is the technical definition of using water in labor. I'm not sure why I'm showing you the slide, but just to denote that we are now talking about another tool in our toolbox. What do you guys think right now? Can you picture this heavy toolbox of filling up with stuff? That's what I want. Just a side note, one thing that used to make me crazy when people would share, when I told people I was a childbirth educator, people would say, oh, my printer's recalibrating. Sorry for the noise. People would say, I never used anything I learned in childbirth class. And I was like, well, why the hell not? Why were you not taught anything? So ever since then, I was determined that I want everyone who takes childbirth class with me to feel like they have tools they can use, that they are going to say at the end of it, I was better off. I was more prepared. I had lots of ideas because I took childbirth class. You guys are going to say that, right? You're going to send me an email after you have your baby and say, I used this tool, whatever tool this is, I used it, or these tools. Will you do that? Open invitation. Share that with me. I keep talking about how I'm going to talk about hydrotherapy and I haven't started yet. Hydrotherapy, the tub and the shower. Let's start with the tub. There's a video on the homework playlist about the tub, but it kind of comes down to two things. Early labor, which you guys already know, the tub can slow things down. Hooray. That's what we want. We love it. Active labor, so after that 6 centimeters, the tub usually doesn't have an impact on the slowing or speeding up. It really is there for providing pain relief. So much pain relief that sometimes you'll hear like midwives and doulas call it the aquadural, because it just can provide such a huge relief from the pain of labor. One of my most common questions people ask me is, what about if my water breaks? Totally. Definitely can still get in. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Natalie. I was like, no one is answering my question about tools. Oh, shoot. When I'm teaching, I'm like kind of looking at the chat, like hoping you guys are following me. It's hard when I can't see your faces and like I can't see nodding. I can't see anyone like being distracted by their phone, which is good. No one's being distracted in this class, hopefully. Natalie, this is why you have a supportive partner. Hopefully you have a partner or a support person or someone there that can have the tools ready to go and suggesting, because it is easy to lose your common sense and to think like, all I can do, I just have to stay in this bed and I don't have any options and I can't even remember anything. Also, your cheat sheets. If you make your own cheat sheets or you download the cheat sheets from the handy handouts, even if you're stressed and like, what the heck, you can just look down and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing. If you have this book, I totally recommend bringing it with you. And the pages on movement, just keep it open in your room so you can just see it. Okay, thank you. Good, Natalie. Yes, that is, partners and support people are excellent at keeping us on track with using our tools too. So the tub is great for pain management and active labor, slowing things down before that. So if we are at the point where we are wanting to increase contractions, we are wanting to like get this labor going and we're not in active labor yet, the tub isn't a good option. What's a good option at any time is the shower. The shower is excellent, but has a couple buts. I want you to set it up for the best results. I want you to have some battery operated candles or some string of like tea lights. Tea lights? What are those called? Fairy lights, like Christmas lights, fairy lights. Have those in the room, something that's going to create just that beautiful, peaceful environment. So this dark cave-like, because when you pair the darkness, you pair that white noise sound that comes from the shower head, you pair just the feeling of warmth from the shower that you can direct anywhere. You can direct it on your back. If you have a wand, you could kind of put it over your stomach. You could have your partner do that. You can have your partner go back and forth over your back, which is one of my absolute favorite things in the shower. Is if you're a support person, get that shower wand. A lot of hospitals have a wand shower head, and just point that shower head back and forth on their back, up and down, back and forth, rhythmic. So good. So wonderful. That's why I usually tell partners and support people to bring a swimsuit, especially partners, if you're going to be like real active and helping in the shower. Throw on your swimsuit and like flip-flops, just because it can get kind of wet and you don't want to hesitate being supportive because you don't want to get your one outfit wet. So shower is excellent if you're experiencing back labor. Remember we talked about back labor from if the baby is malpositioned, sunny side up, sometimes we have back labor. So Kayana said, my doctor told me that I can't do the tub after my water breaks. So I don't know why they said that, but it's not evidence-based. And it's really not, that's making me upset because it's not, I don't know where your doctor is getting that, if that's a hospital policy, but it certainly isn't the policy at all the hospitals I've worked at. Like, it's just not a thing. It's like an old myth. So boo on that. I don't like that they told you that because it's not based on any research. There's no, think about a water birth, right? People have water births in different settings, birth centers, hospitals, different areas. I know we have one hospital here in Seattle that's doing water birth. There were like 3 in Atlanta. So obviously they're going to be in the water when water breaks. But Kiana, you're not the only one. I've heard other people's providers give non-evidence-based information. But it's hard when don't know. I don't even know all the research. So it's hard. Okay, I hope hydrotherapy, you've started thinking about it a little bit. Next time you're in the shower or you're in the tub, I would love to suggest some of our breathing techniques for you. Try those out with the hydrotherapy and see, has anybody let me know in the chat if anyone has been practicing. I would love to hear it. So let me know. It can be an excellent extra layer to have. I will say also about in the shower and tub, some hospitals have the ability to monitor, to do continuous monitoring in the tub and in the shower. And Kiana, maybe that is what the doctor was saying. Maybe they don't have, if you have to have continuous monitoring, maybe they don't have the waterproof monitors. That could be it. So check on that. That could be it. Yes. But I would say most of our modern fetal monitors and external monitors are waterproof. So they can be, if you have to have continuous monitoring, you can bring them into the shower, you can bring them into the tub. But of course, if it's intermittent monitoring, like you guys know, if you have 15 minutes out of an hour, then you might have that 45 minutes or whatever in hydrotherapy without monitoring. Whew, this was a lot. How are you guys? Did you hang in there? Let me, yay, Tara's practicing. I love it. And Rebecca says, I feel more confident for coping this time around. Great, great, great. That's what I need. That's what I want. Oh, rolling shoulders. Good. Before we go, I will put the link for the workshop. Again, if you joined us late, I am holding a decision-making workshop, which is really going to do some role playing and common scenarios. And I'm doing it over Zoom. So there is a fee with it. It's $49, 2 hours. I'm offering it 2 days. Also, if you sign up and you attend one of them, you can attend both. So they're going to be the same content, but you might want to just attend them both times or not, or just attend one. So, and I have private consultations at any time. I haven't mentioned that here on the stream, I don't think, but I do 2 30-minute Zoom one-on-ones, and that's a good time to talk about birth plans, talk through specific situations, and that's kind of what I do as a doula when I'm not teaching class. So awesome. Oh, Kiana's practicing every day. I love it. Larika says she can't use the tub because of the continuous monitoring. Yeah. Sometimes that it depends on what the facility's practices are. Yay! Tomorrow. So let me remind everybody what's coming tomorrow. Tomorrow, guys, tomorrow is time to push. So we are pushing tomorrow, and we are also going to talk about counter pressure. So super exciting class. That is when Alice gets to do some pushing positions for you guys, which is super weird, but I'm used to it and it's good. So tomorrow we push and counter pressure. And thanks so much for coming, you guys. Again, another great class. I certainly enjoyed it. O'Neill, you are killing me. So appreciative. Now I got to get a good sound effect. I always appreciate super stickers and super chats and all of those. As a live streamer, that is a thank you. And thank you guys for hitting the like button too. Hit the like button before you go. And if you are meeting me over at the after the class practice, that is at this URL. And all those links are down below. And you guys can always email me for more info. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.